Hello, Internet. Welcome back to Late Night Nerd Immersion, where we continue to play catch up on things that we missed because of work. And you know what? I'm back. I'm feeling good. Although I know some more shifts coming up this weekend. But hey, I'm going on vacation next week, which is going to be a lot of fun. But I will be bringing my laptop with me on vacation. It's just to my mom's house upstate, kind of for the 4th of July. But that being said, I will be there and I will continue to do the coverage. And because I'll be on vacation, I should be able to do that coverage relatively close to the time those videos go live. So we'll just take like an hour in the middle of our day while we're up on vacation and be able to get a new video out for all of you. So we'll be right back on track. What's up with a warlock omission of magic weapon summoning? You're talking about pact magic. Anyway, we are going to be talking here about the wizard in just a sec, but I will answer your question about pact magic weapon summoning here in just a sec. Once I go figure out which one had the, is it 7 or 6 had the warlock? Playtest 7 had the warlock. Okay. Did they not have the option to summon it with Pact of the Blade? Well, let's see. Right here it says, Pact of the Blade. Your bond with the weapon ends if the feature is, let's see. As bonus action, you can trace arcane sigils until the bond ends. You have mastery property with the weapon. Oh, I didn't realize you had the mastery property with it too. That's fantastic. Yeah, I guess you can't summon it. Whenever you attack with a bonded weapon, use charisma instead of strength or dex. You deal extra damage. It ends if you use it again, if the feature more than away for you for 5 feet, or if you die. Yeah. I guess maybe that's gonna now just be a feature of the Eldritch Knight is the only one who gets to do the cool weapon summon now, not Pact of the Blade Warlocks, I guess. I never realized that. That was an interesting catch that I totally missed. Yeah, Life Drinker doesn't give you that. Gives you the healing. Pact of the Chain, Thirsting Blade. Yeah, weird that they removed that. I'm a little shocked. I mean, maybe the final version changed it back. But yeah, that's interesting. They did get, I would say Warlocks got a great, I would agree with the concept of a great glow up for Warlocks across the board. Yeah, I'm wondering if they, yeah, I guess they might have just flat out removed that feature, which is kind of wild. Oh, well, interesting. Just sorry, I'm just reading something. Well, don't get attached to the fact that you get the weapon mastery property from it anymore. Won't. Because you won't anymore. Anyway. Let's go ahead and watch this video. I have not watched this video. I don't know what's going to be in it. It's the wizard video. Again, most of the wizard stuff stayed very similar, but let's go ahead and see what they have to say here.
Hello, everyone. Today we are.
You guys need to hear it. I also need to hear it because my headphones turned off. And I also should put it so you guys can actually see what's happening here. Thank you, Solar. I am having a good night. Oh yeah, we could talk about the cantrips when we get to that point, when cantrips are available. But yeah, here we go. Let us talk about the wizard. I knew I was going to lose people by not just continuing the live stream. So hopefully people do see that, because we had almost 100. We had like 100 more people. I knew this would be a bad idea, canceling one live stream to start another, but it just makes things easier for me on the back end. So let's go ahead. Yes, spells are on Monday. Here we go.
We are talking about the Wizard. The Wizard has all sorts of new magical goodies, some in the class, but many of them in the spell chapter. The Wizard is the paramount collector of spells in D&D. They have the longest spell list of any class, and that list in the New Player's Handbook got even longer, which we were able to do partly because the spell chapter got even bigger, and many of those spells are for the Wizard, because spell access and spell versatility is the beating heart of the Wizard class. And so, whereas other spellcasting classes, of course, also...
Hang on 1 sec. Something didn't feel right having our Wizard hat on. Let's go ahead and switch to a different set of headphones, though. Hang on 1 sec. It didn't feel right to do a video as a Wizard without rocking the Wizard hat. So let me just change my input setting here for my headphones. Let's go back. We want to make that the sound over. Let's see if this works. That's good. It is the same hat from the Vec the Eve of Ruin game. That is correct. Let me just make sure I'm grabbing it so I'm capturing it so you guys can actually hear it. There we go. That's not right. The headphones.
beating heart of the Wizard.
Okay, there we go. Let's go ahead and, yeah, there we go. Now we feel right to talk about a Wizard. Get our crystal ball, our little amber orb. We'll put this over here. We are ready to review the Wizard now. Okay. All right, let's go back. You guys, let me know if the sound changed at all. I think it should be okay, but let me know if the sound's any lower for you.
Wizard class. And so, whereas other spellcasting classes, of course, also care about spells, but often their spellcasting is enhanced by a number of other features that they have that bring their distinctiveness, whereas the Wizard's primary distinctiveness is a huge variety of spells at their fingertips. And so we just leaned into that even more. Just as in every class, we've leaned into what really makes a particular class shine, what makes it really exciting to the people who love playing that class. And so with the Wizard, it is give us all the spells.
So much has changed with spells as well. There've been, there's a lot of quality of life improvements in so many of these spells. The Wizard is consequently the most affected by that.
Exactly. And then the Wizard has a number of new features and enhanced features that allow them to interact with that massive treasure chest of spells in the book with even greater versatility. So for example, at first level, Wizards now have the ability to change one of their cantrips every time they finish a long rest. No other class has this capability to just every day be, no, I now know a different cantrip.
I changed my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, that's a great example of how we're leaning into that breadth and versatility that is such a distinctive aspect of the wizard, and always has been, as one of the classes that has been in the game the longest. We have also...
Thank you for the super chat, Agile Monk. I really appreciate it. You're awesome. You're all awesome. I appreciate all of you for being here and hanging out with me on this Friday night, or Saturday morning, I guess.
At first level, added a new feature called Ritual Adept. Now, functionally, this feature is not new. What this feature does is it allows the wizard to cast as a ritual any ritual that is in the wizard's spellbook. I say it's not functionally a new feature because wizards in 2014 had that capability. We decided, though, to take that capability, which used to be inside the spellcasting feature, and we broke it out into its own class feature because we realized that there were a number of wizard players who were missing the fact that they had that feature, because the spellcasting feature has a lot going on in it, and it can actually be easy to miss this little section about, oh, and hey, by the way, you're really great at using rituals. And we thought that was an important enough part of the wizard's identity, and really a separate bit of functionality from the base spellcasting feature, that we broke it out into its own feature called, again, Ritual Adept.
Perfect.
At second level, gave a truly new feature to the wizard called Scholar. And here, just as we have in several of our other classes where we've given people a bit more versatility outside combat. Now, not that the wizard needed a whole lot of help in that realm, because wizards, as a result of having so much spell versatility, have access to a lot of non-combat spells. But we also, with the wizard, wanted to do a better job of, in the game mechanics, highlighting that wizards are meant to be the consummate scholars. That a huge part of their identity is that they are bookish folk. And so the new Scholar ability allows the wizard to select a skill from a list in the feature and have expertise in that skill. And the skills on the list are like Arcana, History, etc. All skills that are about being an expert in essentially an academic field. And we have often, in the story text for the wizard, talked about that aspect of wizards. We wanted to give the story some teeth in the rules.
And it, again, the only unfortunate thing about it is kind of what we talked about when we talked about this for the druid, is those class skills are only as useful as your DM makes them, right? So yeah, it's expertise, I think, in all the intelligence-based things, right? Like Arcana, Religion, History, Nature. And it makes sense that as a scholar, a wizard would have expertise in at least one of those. It also potentially gives you the option, if you take some like feat like skill expert, you could pick a different one, so you could have expertise in like 2 intelligence based skills, which is great. But ultimately it's going to come down to your DM really to decide how useful those are. I did also, funny enough, they were mentioning it, I'm looking back at Unearthed Arcana 7, which had the wizard in it, and I never even noticed this, but right here in the cantrip section, it says whenever you finish a long rest, you can replace one of your cantrips from this feature with another wizard cantrip of your choice. This was something that I just totally glanced over when I read through this the first time we reviewed it. So this is in fact built in. We had this already. I just totally missed it. And then again, they talked about the spell book, and they mentioned it here specifically as the ritual caster section. You can cast any spell as a ritual if that spell has the ritual tag and the spell's in your spell book. You needn't have that spell prepared, but you must read from the spell to cast it in that way. So that was called out kind of separately in a one way in the Unearthed Arcana 7, but it looks like they now have separated out from what they said into a separate feature now available at level 1 called Ritual Adept, they're calling it now. And basically it sounds like what they're saying is it's basically the same thing. But instead of just calling it Ritual Caster here, which they might have also chose to call it Ritual Adept, because Ritual Caster is the name of a feat, so that would separate it out. So it seems like they just took this ability that you see right here and just moved it into a new level 1 ability that they're calling Ritual Adept. So that's cool. That's fine. And just having this built in here, it's also something that could be easily missed, in my opinion. But and then we still have Arcane Recovery, which probably works presumably the same way. And here is that Scholar feature in the Unearthed Arcana, right? Expertise in one of those, which is fine. Let us continue on.
Hence the creation of the Scholar feature. Now, the wizard gets yet another brand new feature at 5th level, and this feature is called Memorize Spell. And again, leaning into the versatility of wizards, we gave them a bit more versatility. Memorize Spell now allows the wizard, when they finish a short rest, to swap out.
Take a look at all the cool stuff in the background here in this art of Mordenkainen. There's like an imp up here. There's like an owl bat creature looking thing. You've got a 3-eyed thing over here. There's a lot of cool things to pick out in the background of this piece of art.
One of the level 1 or higher spells they have prepared for another one in their spell book. You know, if they know they have that one spell in their spell book that they really wish they had prepared, Memorize Spell will now allow them to do that.
And that's huge for any type of combat, like potential combat encounter, but or you are running into like something that's happening in a dungeon and you need to find a way to like get through this situation. That's perfect. That's what the wizard should be good at.
Yes, exactly.
Here's also, first of all, just a piece of art that you can very clearly tell is magic missile, but also looks possibly like mage armor as well, which is pretty cool. Let's go ahead and take a look, because they do have Memorize Spell here in Unearthed Arcana 7 as well. Studying your spell book for 1 minute, you can expend mental and magical effort to memorize a spell. Choose one spell of level 1 or higher from your spell book that you don't have prepared. You now have that spell prepared until you use this feature to prepare a different spell. So that's basically exactly what they're saying, right? Actually, it sounds like they're saying you're replacing it. It looks like the one in Unearthed Arcana 7 is just pick a spell and you just now have that spell prepared until you use this feature again. It sounds like what they're saying is the final version of Memorize Spell in the player's handbook that they mentioned is a replacement. Rather, I liked this version, which basically just gave you an additional spell prepared. But I can understand why they would change that to basically pick a spell you don't need and swap it for another spell on your spell list. Now, also, this says studying your spell book for a minute. Did they say short rest to change it? Let's go and listen to that again.
Do that.
And that's huge for
another one in their spell book. Short rest is called Memorize Spell. And again, leaning into the versatility of wizards, we gave them a bit more versatility. Memorize Spell now allows the wizard, when they finish a short rest, to swap out one of the level 1 or higher spells they have prepared for another one in their spell book. You know, if they know they have that one spell in their spell book.
Yeah, nobody's going to call this one out because nobody's really focusing that much, but that is in fact a nerf, right? It used to be study your spell book for a minute to swap a spell you had. One, to just pick a spell you didn't have prepared and prepare it, and then you could always just a minute later swap out a different spell for another one. Now it's after a short rest, swap a spell. That is technically a nerf from the original Memorize Spell ability. I get it, needing more time to swap it out. It does really, if you're going to continue to focus, though, on the fact that Wizard's strength is in their versatility of spells, having that original feature that lets you swap them for a minute, even if it was still a happy medium, I guess in my mind would maybe be like combine them instead of like once per short rest, replace it, make it, study for a minute and then replace. Because right now the original one that we saw here in Unearthed Arcana 7, it is just basically a freebie, one extra spell prepared. But I'd be fine with kind of keeping this language as it is, but instead of a freebie, make it a swap. I mean, ultimately, it's just nice to have because we never had that as wizards before, and now it's a new thing that we just have. But yeah, it's not a huge deal, but it is a slight nerf in that regard. But I get it as somebody playing a wizard in the Vecna Eve of Ruin campaign that I'm playing in right now. I have to change my spells up a lot because I definitely I chose a lot more utility spells because we have a lot more heavy damage dealing, but my damage dealers keep finding ways to not deal damage for one way or another, so I need to swap stuff out. But it's definitely a thing that is nice to have if you're like, oh, I didn't prepare knock today, but it sure would be easier to just open that door magically via knock, or like, didn't anticipate us possibly falling to our deaths, but you know what, let me swap something for Featherfall, because I didn't think we were going to need Featherfall today, but we might. stuff like that. But yeah, let's keep going. Yeah, 1 minute. Oh, that could be interesting. 1 minute, but it can't be used again until you finish a short rest. That could be something instead of at the end of a short rest. Yeah, there's opportunity to make some tweaks there. Either way, I like it.
That they really wish they had prepared. Memorize spell will now allow them to do that.
And that's huge for any type of combat, like potential combat encounter, but or you are running into like something that's happening in a dungeon and you need to find a way to like get through this situation. That's perfect. That's what the wizard should be good at.
Yes, exactly. Otherwise, the wizard in its bones is largely what people sort of know and love. We've made some tweaks in how we present some of the material in the wizard, but really the heart of the new material in the base class is even greater breadth and greater versatility. And then that sets up the 4 subclasses to be very well equipped to then do what they're great at, having such a firm, versatile base for their features to be built on.
So one of the very first subclasses is the Abjurer. Tell me about this. This is the one that is a lot about
casual drizzed in the background there.
Defensive magic.
Yes, the Abjurer is at heart all about defending themselves and then ultimately also being able to defend others. And to aid them in their defensive capabilities, we've done a number of things both in the subclass itself, but also in the wizard's spell list. There are a number of spells that were previously not abjurations that now are.
Oh, interesting.
And we did this because some of the spells we felt had been misclassified as other types of magic, and so we were correcting the spells themselves, making them abjurations. But this is also of practical importance to the Abjurer because it's casting abjuration spells that helps refresh their magical force field that absorbs damage.
Yeah.
And so that's another example of how the work that we've done in the spell chapter and in the wizard's spell list has a powerful effect on how this subclass functions as well as the other wizard subclasses.
Absolutely.
Each of the 4 wizard subclasses now has a brand new version of their savant feature. That feature used to give...
The savant feature was such kind of like a throwaway, so I really like the adjustments to this a lot.
The wizard a discount on scribing spells of that school into their spell book.
Right.
We found over the last decade that in actual play, this was rarely actually being used. Often people would forget they had it.
Yeah.
And even if they remembered they had it, it was not actually doing them a whole lot of good. So we wanted to give people something more concrete that not only would they enjoy, but also really help ensure that they were connected to their favorite school of magic. So in the Abjurer, Abjuration Savant right away gives you 2 more abjuration spells that you get to add to your spell book for free.
Okay.
And then every time you level up thereafter as a wizard, you get an additional abjuration spell for free. And so we've taken this shtick, and that shtick is now in all 4 of the wizard subclasses, ensuring that if you're an Abjurer, Evoker, Illusionist, or Diviner, you are guaranteed every time you level up to get at least 1 spell that is associated with your favorite school of magic.
Okay, perfect.
So that makes that feature in all 4 of the subclasses far more useful, and again, does some important work in making sure that you are actually connected to your favorite school. Now,
yeah, it's just such a nice adjustment, right? So right here, if we look at this, right? Abjuration Savant. Choose 2 abjuration spells from the wizard spell list, each which must be no higher than level 2. Add them to your spellbook for free. So you're just getting some more straight up front. And then in addition, whenever you gain access to a new level of spells, you can add 1 abjuration spell for free. And again, you're going to see that for divination and across the board. Such a simple little change to just give you basically what they were trying to get at, like making things easier, just so much better in every aspect. And I just love this way. It's so much more the only thing it's just better in every way. The only thing that's tricky is if you want to make a different wizard subclass that's not tied to a school of magic, how do you do that? Because like this is a very cool feature that's very nice to apply to everything, but let's say you want to make a homebrew subclass. the Savant feature, you basically are just going to have to ditch it because it doesn't really work that way. And that's why it would have been nice to see a non-School of Magic specific wizard subclass make its way into this book so we could get an idea, something like the Blade Singer or something like that. Oh, damn. Well, what are you doing awake, Josiah? Why are you here, my man? It's 3 o'clock, 3:30 in the, what is it, 4:30 for you? Why are you awake? Anyway, I'm awake. I'm awake because I've been on night shifts for the past like week and a half, and they just ended this morning, so my body doesn't understand what time is anymore. So here I am trying to figure out what time is and return to some semblance of normalcy before I have to jump back into it again in like a day or two. But anyway, so let's continue on with, we talked about the Savants. Arcane Ward's going to be up next. Let's see what they have to say about that.
In the Abjurer's Arcane Ward, which is really their signature class feature.
Yeah.
You know, this is the feature where they get to conjure up a protective field of magic, and it can essentially take their damage for them.
Yeah.
We made if a person's reading fast, they might miss it when they get to the feature, but we made a significant change to how the Arcane Ward works, and that is if your Abjurer has resistance, vulnerability, or immunity, those are now all applied before the Arcane Ward takes damage. And now, you'll be sad in the rare case of you having vulnerability and it being applied first. But
that's huge. That is a huge benefit for Abjuration. Wow. Oh, I love that.
Most of the time, what this is going to mean is
Andreas, I'm going to review the Ranger next, but I am not reviewing it tonight because I need to get some sleep to just fully unleash the rage I have on the Ranger video, which will be tomorrow, because I'm so angry. I can't do that to myself on no sleep. I need to save it for tomorrow when I'm at full strength and can rage with my whole chest, because I have so many things to say about that.
If you have acquired resistance to a particular damage type, it now means your Arcane Ward can benefit from that resistance.
Absolutely.
And we then also applied that improvement to the projected ward feature that you get later, where you then have the ability to share your protection with friends.
Let's go ahead and shoot for noon tomorrow. All right. I'll make a premiere or like a thing about it, an official post, or like schedule it ahead of time. We'll make this video. You know what? Just be on the lookout. I'm going to shoot for noon. I might make it 1 depending on what real life situations happen tomorrow. But sometime between the noon to 1 p.m. Eastern time, I will be rested, well-fed, and ready to rage.
But in that case, rather than it being your resistance or vulnerability or immunity that's applied, it's theirs. So if, let's say, you're protecting your friend who has poison resistance and they take poison damage, their resistance to poison damage will kick in first, then the Arcane Ward will take the remaining damage. And then if there's still damage left over, then only then will it reach the person who's being protected.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I look forward to this as well. Thank you. Good seeing you. Good luck with editing your video. Hope that goes well. I don't think they actually had that bit about applying the resistances first in this Unearthed Arcana here. From 7, right? Maximum hit points. Whenever you take damage, it takes it to 0. Yeah, they didn't actually. That was an addition since this version. So the original version we saw in Unearthed Arcana 7 did not have language about the resistances. So that's pretty cool to see that adjustment. And I also like that if you cast your Arcane Ward on an ally, your ally's resistances apply as well, which is really, really cool to see. So, and it is still twice hit points equal to twice your wizard level plus your intelligence modifier. So that's pretty much remained the same. So we like that. Yeah, and it looks like they did just add specific language, like we said, that says that those resistances, vulnerabilities will apply. And then again, we see Projected Ward. Again, it is when ally within 30 feet. Reaction to have them take that as well. And then again, they'll take this the same kind of thing applied as they had mentioned.
The benefit of this is if you have an abjuration spell that can give you resistances like that, and you cast it, you are not only funneling energy into your shield, essentially, but you are also applying those resistances that that spell would have to that damage at the same time. You're kind of gaming the system constantly. You're growing your shield and then making it more resistant at the same time, all in one.
Before you get to your level 14 feature, you actually get a brand new feature as an Abjurer called Spellbreaker. At level 10, Spellbreaker now makes it so that you always have the counter spell and dispel magic spells prepared, and you can cast dispel magic as a bonus action. And when you cast either of the spells with a spell slot, if the spell fails to either counter another spell or dispel a spell, your spell slot is not expended. This is the wizard who not only is, another spellcaster does not want to get into a spell duel with the Abjurer.
That's so much better than what we had here in Unearthed Arcana 7, which was you always had Dispel Magic prepared. You can cast it as a bonus action and add your proficiency bonus to the ability check. They added counter spell to this, and the super useful feature of if it doesn't work, you don't expend the spell slot. Man, that is huge. So powerful. And again, like we said, we didn't really talk about the fact that when you cast an abjuration spell with a spell slot, it regains hit points equal to twice the level of the spell slot. Or as a bonus action, you expend a spell slot, and it regains a number of hit points equal to twice the spell level expended, which is just, again, nice ways to charge it back up. But yeah, it's so much better now. The Spellbreaker is a fantastic feature, and again, just the version difference from what we saw in the Unearthed Arcana to the final version is just that much better.
But also, Dispel Magic being a bonus action means if you're in one of those situations in the game where, sometimes there'll be a battle where there's a MacGuffin with some kind of magical protection, and most other characters would have to use their entire action to try to break that protection on it. The Abjurer can just walk up as a bonus action, try to shatter the spell, and still take their action to do something else.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, so Spellbreaker is a really exciting new feature for this subclass. And then at level 14, the Abjurer still gets their spell resistance that they had before.
That's very fun. Again, you're like honing in on what makes the Abjurer, that wish fulfillment, that fantasy that you would have, concrete.
Absolutely. We then had a similar approach with the Diviner, because the Diviner was in such fantastic shape in 2014.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Diviner is identical in almost every way, other than the Savant feature.
A very beloved subclass, a very effective subclass. So the main things that people who love playing Diviners have to look forward to is the improved Divination Savant, which, like the Savant spells in the other subclasses, make sure that you always get some divination spells as you level up as a wizard. When you get up to level 10 and get the Third Eye ability, that you can now use this as a bonus action rather than an action. And we did this because we wanted you to be able to unlock the cool senses that this feature gives you, even in the midst of a battle, and not lose your whole turn doing it. We also fine-tuned and upgraded the options within the Third Eye. So the dark vision option, for instance, now extends to 120 feet. We did this partly because we now have some of the species in the book who have dark vision of 120 feet. We also combined some of the abilities that were present before under the Third Eye into one called simply now See Invisibility, which allows you now to cast the See Invisibility spell without expending a spell slot. So some nice quality of life improvements, particularly in that Third Eye feature that you get at level 10.
In the playtest for all of this, does combat feel significantly faster? It just feels like there's a new momentum because so many things are being shifted to a bonus action. Like it just feels like things are going to be moving so much quicker in D&D now.
So it varies depending on what characters do, and also some things that used to be bonus actions are now actions, or are now a part of some other action. So it really is been just a large holistic shuffling of things to try to get them to be in the right part of the action economy to keep things moving, but also to make it so that things feel like they are costing the right part of the action economy.
Right.
Often we'll make the change because something as an action just wasn't pulling its weight. And so then we either beefed it up so that it did pull its weight as an action, or we turned it into a bonus action or a reaction or not an action at all, and it just became something that happens as part of another action or at the start or end of your turn.
Okay.
And so there are tweaks like that that we made within the Wizard, but through the entire game.
Okay, perfect.
So how about next we talk about the Evoker?
If you love dealing damage and also not destroying your entire party, this is the subclass for you. So I'm terrified of what might have improved because it was already very strong.
So yeah, the Evoker and the Diviner were two of the most solid subclasses in the 2014 Player's Handbook, just in terms of delivering what they needed to deliver for their identity.
Yeah.
And so because of that, in each of these subclasses, our job was mostly don't mess anything up. And so in the Evoker, they get their Evocation Savant feature now. So again, like the other Wizard subclasses, they're going to get supplied by evocation spells throughout their career as a wizard. But then we did make a major enhancement in the Potent Cantrip feature. Potent Cantrip used to pertain only to saving throws, and specifically saving throw cantrips. The issue is there were not a ton of those for evokers to use in the 2014 Player's Handbook, and even subsequent to that book, there were only a few. And so what we did is we've made it so that Potent Cantrip now applies not just to cantrips you cast that involve a saving throw, but also ones that involve an attack roll. And
so much better.
Now, when you cast those at a creature and you miss or the creature succeeds on its saving throw, you still deal half damage to them.
That's amazing.
This is really meant to point at the fact that the Evoker is in many ways...
Again, if you missed that, it's previously like Potent Cantrip was, where if you cast a spell that requires a saving throw and they succeed, normally a cantrip would deal no damage. Now they take half damage. Even if you miss with your attack roll against them with an attacking cantrip, they still take half damage, which is pretty wild.
The premier battle magician in the game.
That was a great pause face, I know.
And better than pretty much anyone can ensure that they're going to deal a little bit of damage every time they take a turn if they're casting a damaging spell.
And this happens sooner, doesn't it?
This happens at level 3 when you get the subclass.
Yeah.
Now, the Wizard subclasses, which used to kick in at level 2, now all kick in at level 3.
Right.
Again, because now all classes get their subclass at level 3.
Perfect.
Otherwise, the Evoker is the amazingly powerful and effective subclass that it always was.
Overchannel. Sculpt spell.
Yes. Yeah, with Sculpt spell continuing to be a really pivotal part of the Evoker's kit, because if you have a subclass that's all about bringing the boom, it sure is nice if they're not blowing up their friends.
Now, there are some significant changes to a subclass that I actually quite love, that are new and exciting. And
so let's just take a look, because it looks like they're just gonna move to the Illusionist. So let's just take a look. Right, we Sculpt spells the same. Empowered Evocation is the same, where you just add your intelligence modifier to 1 damage roll for that spell. And then again, we have Overchannel here, which is kind of the same as it's always been. When you cast a spell of level 1 to 5, you can just choose to deal max damage with it. And the first time you do so, there's no negative. And then each time you do that, you take 2d12 necrotic damage for each level of the spell. And again, it ignores resistance and immunity. And again, each time you use it, you increase the necrotic damage by a d12. So that's pretty much exactly the same. The only thing is just swapping, the Savant changes, Potent Cantrip and Sculpt spells switching spots, and the fact that Potent Cantrip now does damage even if you miss, which is nice. All right, let's get into the Illusionist.
that is
Also, new Illusionist art.
for the Illusionist.
Yes, the Illusionist, in addition to getting their Illusion Savant feature at level 3, then right away has in the subclass 2 new features. One of them is also at level 3 called Improved Illusions, and then at level 6 they get a brand new feature called Phantasmal Creatures.
Yeah.
Following the Unearthed Arcana series and getting feedback on the...
That is different than what we have here. If you look here, we had malleable illusions at level 6. That apparently has been replaced with phantasmal creatures. So let's keep going, see what they say.
The Illusionist, and also in our own playtests of the Illusionist, we felt that this subclass needed more. And so one of our goals with these new features is to make it so that the Illusionist is actually the best subclass at casting illusions. And so the improved illusions feature that they now get at level 3 is all about that. First, they can now cast their illusion spells without providing verbal components. We did this because we wanted an illusionist, if they want to be able to create illusions silently. And
that's new from the Unearthed Arcana.
In especially exploration and social situations in the game, this will be immensely helpful because now, the spell might have a somatic component, and so the illusionist might be twiddling their fingers, but doesn't have to say anything aloud. And so they might be able to cause an illusion to suddenly appear in a situation, and no one will know that it was that person over there who did it. We've also made it in this same feature that any of the illusionist's illusion spells that has a range of at least 10 feet now has that range increased by 60 feet.
Oh, wow.
And so that also now means that
also brand new for the final version.
Illusionists can create their illusions in a much larger range than other characters can.
Be way more tactical about distractions and things like that.
Exactly. So if someone else has to have the illusion just within 10 feet, the illusionist can have their illusion 70 feet over there. And giving them much more flexibility in how they essentially mess with people in a particular situation.
And harder to tell from that distance that is an illusion, right? Like, just as if I was a dungeon master, like if there was an illusion of someone 60 feet away, like how good is your your visual acuity at that point for you to identify that that is fake?
Yes.
Yeah, significantly less.
But improved in illusions has even more.
Okay.
So what it did before is it gave you the minor illusion cantrip.
Right.
So that also is included in the feature. That cantrip does not count against the number of cantrips that you know as a wizard. It just like it did in 2014, this feature lets you create both a visual and an audible illusion simultaneously with minor illusion, and you can cast minor illusion as a bonus action. And then at level 6, you get phantasmal creatures.
Yeah, this is really amazing.
Okay, so let's stop for a second. So basically all we had in the Unearthed Arcana was essentially the learn minor illusion, cast it as a bonus action. Oh no, I guess we just had minor illusion, and then you can create a sound and an image with it. It sounds like what they're saying is they have given you casting minor illusion as a bonus action, giving it the sound and the image thing for minor illusion. Any illusion spell you cast, including minor illusion, no longer has verbal components and has their range increased by 60 feet. This is a massive improvement in every capacity. You got everything you had previously, but also switching again to a bonus action, and then these boosts to just any illusion spell you cast. And now again, originally at level 6, we had malleable illusions, which was after you cast an illusion spell that has a duration of a minute or longer, you can use a bonus action to change the nature of that illusion. Now we're getting a wholly brand new feature called Phantasmal Creatures, which we're going to see what that is here in just a sec.
And here, we wanted to give illusionists an ability that had a bit more combat teeth and also really helped fulfill that fantasy of, I create an illusory bear and it roars and creates havoc, and in addition to creating a distraction, can actually fight in battle. And so what Phantasmal Creatures does is it gives the illusionist the Summon Beast and Summon Fey spells. The illusionist always now has these 2 spells prepared. And
what? That is so much better in every way. That's 2 guaranteed prepared summon spells. Even before they tell me what else is coming, infinitely better in every way.
By the way, here's another great example of how we were able to lean on the expanded spell chapter of this book to enhance our classes and subclasses, because Summon Beast and Summon Fey weren't in the 2014 Player's Handbook. They're new spells in the 2024 Player's Handbook, and so the illusionist can now benefit from them. And the illusionist now has the option of casting these 2 spells as normal, of conjuring up a beast or a Fey creature, but the illusionist also has the option of changing the school of magic on these 2 spells from conjuration to illusion. And if the illusionist does that, you can cast the illusory version without expending a spell slot But if you do that, the illusion has half as many hit points as the non-illusory version would have.
Right.
But what this basically
But
means...
you can still opt to do the full hit points if you want.
Yes, you can. But what this means is an illusionist can, once they reach level 6, cast Summon Beast and Summon Fey, each of those spells once per day without expending a spell slot, as long as you summon the illusory version of the Beast or the Fey.
Right.
So this is going to be a ton of fun, super useful, not only in
Also recognize that casting them as illusions now requires no verbal components and also increases their range by 60 feet from your level 3 ability. So you could cast these slightly weaker versions of Summon Beast or Summon Fey without expending a spell slot, mind you, but now also increase the range at which you can cast them and do so without verbal components because they're considered illusionary spells. That's wildly better in every possible way.
Combat, but even in exploration situations, if, say, you need one of these creatures.
No, I don't think it's as a bonus action. I think the bonus action was just reserved for minor illusion, from what they said. Not all illusion spells, just minor illusion.
To show up and because it can fly,
Yeah.
or go get that thing over there, or
I think it's Beast or Fey, but each one can be cast individually once per long rest without expending a spell slot. So that's 2 of those, again, at half hit points. But reminder that Summon Beast and Summon Fey, those are new spells for the player's handbook, but I believe those are the same ones from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. So if you look at those, that should give you a good idea.
especially, hey, it's an illusion, don't feel bad about it.
I know.
It go step on that trap.
Just walking through the Tomb of Horrors one by one.
Yes. So this feature, combined with improved illusions, is really going to bring the illusionist to life, I think, in a way we haven't seen in 5th edition.
And you're using the stat blocks that are in those summoning spells, but you can make it look like anything you want, really, because you're an illusionist, right? Like, that's the flavor of it.
Because, yeah, you can, with these spells, flavor how they look.
Yeah.
Now then, at level 10, you still get the Illusory Self feature, which is the illusionist's defensive ability, but a really nice set of enhancements we've made to the feature is, first, we've made it so that it's triggered by you being hit by an attack rather than attack roll being simply made at you.
Yeah.
So you won't even be tempted to use it until it's really necessary for you to use it. And then the other thing we did is we made it so that if you want, you can restore your use of this feature by expending a spell slot of level 2 or higher.
That's huge.
And especially at higher levels.
So much better in every way. Again, the fact previously it was like if someone's making an attack roll against you, you had to choose to expend it to basically, I think, make it at disadvantage. Or I'm sorry, no. You had to choose to make them miss, essentially, when they were attacking you. And now you don't have that opportunity to expend it beforehand. It's when you're hit, you can basically just turn it into a miss because it hits your illusory duplicate. That's huge. That's so much more versatility and usability, because it would suck to expend it and then watch the DM roll a natural 1. And you're like, well, cool, I wasted that for no reason. But now that's just a huge benefit. And again, the fact that you can blow a level 2 or higher spell slot to just restore this ability, it does return on a short rest too, so consider that. And also the fact that because it restores on a short rest, you could Arcane Recovery while you're restoring this power on a short rest, and then have more spell slot that you could then later burn to then restore Illusory Self.
Wizards have a whole lot of spell slots.
Yeah.
And so the illusionists, if they want to, can farm their spell slots to get more uses of Illusory Self.
That makes you a very defensible character.
And so all of these changes combined mean in many ways the illusionist is a new subclass.
Yeah.
Because really the only part of the subclass that is largely the same as it was before is its capstone ability at level 14, Illusory Reality.
Which has always been amazing.
Yeah, and that's, we didn't want to touch that because it is such an iconic ability of the subclass of being able to, and this is the example we give in the feature itself, of create an illusory bridge with, a spell that's able to create an illusion like that, and then use this feature to say, nah, it's a real bridge.
Yeah.
And have you and your companions cross it, and then, maybe get other people, your foes, to try to follow you, and then, whoops, it's back to being an illusion.
I have been up to many shenanigans with that particular feature, both in villains and as a player. If you want to be a really nasty villain, you could have an entire room that is there's a spiked pit below, and you create the illusion of a floor that is real, and then If things pop off, you just cause everything to fall. Yeah, there's 1,000 uses for that. It's so good.
Yeah.
And we also have more guidance about illusion magic as well, correct?
Yes, so in the rules glossary, there is now a section on illusions, and that section addresses some of the more common questions that come up about illusions, like simple things like how are they affected by the environment around them, but also as we reviewed all of the illusion spells in the book's massive spell chapter, we made sure to add in clarifications anywhere we felt the spell could be clearer about how its illusion worked. But also, again, some of that clarity isn't in those spells themselves, but in the new glossary entry on illusions. And that glossary, which I know we'll talk about in more depth in another video, really is going to be everyone's buddy at the game table.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about it now, not only because of the illusion section for Illusionists, but also how much of that rules glossary will be useful to wizard players and players of other spellcasters, because that rules glossary is going to define all the areas of effect that your spells deal with, all the conditions that your spells apply. There's guidance when it comes to spellcasting in the rules glossary on teleportation, on telepathy, and on being dead, and what that means, which maybe when we get to the cleric video, we can dive into a little bit the rules glossary section on being dead.
That actually sounds very interesting. And honestly, that's a section that I haven't read at all in the copy that I have, just because I was more focused on the new stuff, but like ignoring that because it's just rules. But it's definitely probably worth something me taking a look at just for the hell of it.
Perfect. It's a great tease for the cleric video.
Yes.
I'll have to make that next. All right, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The new players.
All right, that, my friends, was the wizard. So we have finished our wizard video. We are all caught up with exception of one video, which is the ranger video, which will be coming tomorrow when I am ready and at full strength to dive into how much I am mad at this video. So I do appreciate everybody coming and hanging out here. Yeah, it's I don't know. I do really like the changes to all of the wizards. Like I said, base wizard was a class that I didn't think really needed any changes, in my opinion. Wizard was very strong. The changes they give were good quality of life and just general improvement features. And then also the subclass changes were just nice. The savant changes were huge, in my opinion. They really made a nice little bump to some of the things there to give somebody extra abilities and versatility in that aspect. And then again, some of these do feel like the changes to the Illusionist, like almost a brand new subclass. The simple changes to the Abjurer to apply resistance before the Arcane Ward is massive. That has crazy implications for multi-classing, for taking different magic items and species things that give you resistances to damage. You could just avoid so much of that damage, especially putting it on an ally and applying the ally's resistance. Just so clean and so nice to have. I really, really enjoyed that a lot. So you're right, Eddie Grimm. Multi-classing may be less common now, given the fact that classes are so strong in and of themselves. I'm not going to say that there won't be options for multi-classing to become quite strong, because there definitely will be opportunities to do that, and they will be very strong. But yeah, there's definitely an incentive to stick in your class because of all the things you get at level 19 and then at level 20. Definitely some cool options for sure. So yeah, I like things a lot. I don't remember if they covered it when talking about the base class, but did they change the capstone of wizards that's posted in What's Different with Wizards? Let me see. I think it's basically the same. You get the spell mastery at level 18, I think is still the same, and then whatever the other level 20 thing is still the same. And then you just obviously get the epic boon at level 19. And then there's they recommend epic boon of spell recall as your epic boon at level 19. Increase your wisdom, charisma, or intelligence up by 1. And when you cast a spell using a level of 1 to 4 slot, roll a d4. If you roll the spell's level, the spell isn't expended. But yeah, spell mastery at 18 is basically the same, which was, chosen spells must now have a casting. Oh, spell mastery. Chosen spells must now have a casting time of 1 action, but count as always prepared. You can swap a spell on a long rest rather than 8 hours of study, but only 1 per long rest. So that's kind of a change they listed out for spell mastery, which isn't really like a massive change in the grand scheme of things. And then I think level 20 was still whatever the hell that was called, signature spells, where you pick some level 3 spells and basically can just cast those as like a freebie. So yeah, no more shield spell mastery, which is a bummer. Shield or Silvery Barb's spellmaster is gone now because they've limited it to an action, which is a bummer. At least that's what it lists on the page there. It says, yeah, on the D&D Beyond page, it does list that it has to be an action, which is a bummer. Level 1 or level 2 spell has a casting time of an action, which does, like we said, unfortunately remove the pretty common option, which was to take shield as your spell mastery feature so that you could have unlimited shields as a reaction every turn. Everybody would almost always do that. And I don't know what I would pick as an action for, like, if I don't have shield. It also, oh yeah, so my go-to for spell mastery was always shield and misty step. As 2 spells I would have always prepared that I could cast without expending any slots, because in my mind, shield and misty step were both very solid, things you'd want to be able to just do an unlimited number of times. So I actually have no idea what I would choose for spell mastery. So yeah, I'm not sure. So I'm not sure. I really don't know what I would choose as a spell mastery spells at level 1 and level 2. That's interesting. But they do count as always prepared, so it would make sense to pick spells you'd want to have constantly, which is good. That's a benefit, but because it's a casting time of an action, that really limits you. Yeah, and for those of you asking, it's when you gain a new level of spells. So, like, when you get a 3rd level spell, that's when the savants kick in. And I believe signature spells is the same, where you just pick the 2 level 3 spells. Also, a reminder that the entire spell list for these classes is contained within the class section. Like, so in the wizard, like after they get through the base class, the base like wizard class, it lists the entire wizard spell list before it gets into subclasses. So yeah, I don't know what I would pick as a level 1 spell as a wizard. One thing, just unrelated to this, since I'm playing a wizard, I guess Magic Missile wouldn't be bad to have a freebie Magic Missile, but yeah, I mean, I have a hard time picking a ritual spell as a freebie spell. I guess it would be always prepared, but yeah, it's hard to decide. But one thing that I'm noticing, because we talked about it briefly, and I mentioned like how I feel like there's a severe lack of what's it called? Earth-based spells, and as again, many of you know, in the Vecna Eve of Ruin campaign that I'm playing in, where I wear this hat consistently because that's my character. I am a geomancy homebrew subclass in that game, and it makes me lament the lack of earth-based spells in the game. But one thing that I think about that I feel like would be a really cool, and this might just be because of my like playing MMOs and stuff, but there's not a bleed condition in 5e, which kind of bums me out because I feel like earth-based spells for whatever reason should deal bleed damage. I don't know why. I think it's from some MMOs where like sending out like shards of earth inflict bleed on the enemy, and I feel like bleed damage should be like a condition is like bleeding, and it is in Baldur's Gate where you take like a D4 damage at the start of your turn. So I feel like that would be a cool way to tap into earth-based magic. But they're never going to do that because they're not going to add a new condition in like a supplemental book. They're not going to add a new condition. It's just not going to be a thing that they do. So it'd have to be like because it would just be easier to have bleed be a condition instead of having to say like in the spell stat block at the start of each turn the enemy takes a D4, the piercing damage or whatever it is. Whereas you could just add bleed as an effect, but yeah. So yeah, I also feel like I wish there was a feat similar to Elemental Adept for the other non-elemental damage types, like a similar feat for Radiant, Psychic, Force, Necrotic damage. Like there'd be a feat that does like a, ignore resistance to those, and when you roll 1, you roll a 2, kind of a thing, or something similar to that, which would also be really cool. I've mentioned it before because it would be beneficial now to paladins since they cast spells to do smites, so it would be like a cool thing to have that. Yeah, energy savant, some other thing. I mean, maybe it isn't just like ones become twos. Maybe it has another unique effect, and like ones become twos is the elemental adept version of it. So that would just be like a cool thing to have: psychic, force, necrotic, radiant, and like a spell that does that. Because I've been trying to think about like my geomancy wizard class, and I've been trying to pick like earth-based spells, and like there's not a lot, and even in like homebrew stuff and like third party, there's not a lot. Like, and obviously a simple thing to do would just be like reskin fireball to be like a quake, and reskin lightning bolt to be like a fissure, and just change the damage type to bludgeoning or whatever. And that's fine, and I could definitely do that, but I wish there was more like earth-based spells. Like I've got Maximilian's Earthen Grasp and like Earthbind and Earthquake at much later levels and stuff like that. But I just wish there was more. And like I said, I feel like a bleed would be a cool thing you could do, where like you hit them with like earth shards, or you like shoot out like a bunch of splintered rocks, and it's like, and then they take it does some damage and then inflicts bleed, and they take a D4 damage at the start of their turn, unless they make either like a saving throw, or maybe it's just like at the start of their turn for like a turn, or maybe it's kind of like the way burning or like a burning feature kind of works, where like they take a D4 until they take an action to put it out, or like to an action to stymie the bleeding or whatever. I think that would be a cool thing. A Vortex Warp is one of my favorite new spells. So Vortex Warp would definitely be an option for Spell Mastery, although I don't know if Vortex Warp is in this new book. So Hold Person is good. So honestly, Earthbind saved us in one fight, believe it or not, J-Wall. So I picked Earthbind, and we were in a fight with a bunch of wraiths in just so you know, I'm playing in one of Captain Robert's game, and I love the captain, and his rules are very different. It's his like own version of 5e, so it's definitely different from generic 5e. So you have to consider that like things hit a lot harder, stuff's a lot more difficult, there's a lot more back and forth. Like 20s are always good, 1s are always bad. Things will happen, right? Like every time you cast a healing spell, you roll a d20, because if you roll a 20, you heal maximum. If you roll a 20 on a saving throw, you take no damage. If you roll a 1, you take max damage. He's got a lot of custom rules, and there's too much to explain in one sitting here. But we were in a fight with a bunch of wraiths in a tomb in Vecna Eva Ruin, and there were like 4 of them, and people were getting hurt. So what I did was I cast Earthbind on a wraith, and a wraith only has a fly speed, and they don't have a very good strength score. So I cast Earthbind on the wraith, and the thing is, Earthbind, as you may or may not know, they fail that saving throw, and they don't get to make another saving throw. It reduces their fly speed to 0, and then they like have to land. And as long as you maintain concentration on that spell, their fly speed is 0. And because a wraith only has a fly speed, I locked it in place for the entire combat, and it did nothing. Like it couldn't move, it couldn't attack anybody because it only has melee attacks. So I just effectively took one of those enemies out of the fight for a 2nd level spell slot. which was huge for that combat because it got a little hairy at points with people's strength getting drained. So I was able to just lock one of the enemies down completely with 1 second level spell slot. So yes, Earthbind does not come up very often, but in that particular instance where something only had a fly speed, it was huge. Now, more often than not, people always think of Earthbind on a dragon, right? That's what people always think the dragon's going to leave. Cast Earthbind on the dragon. Dragon has a good strength score. Dragon has legendary resistance. And dragons can still walk on the ground when you force them to the earth. But something that only has a fly speed is permanently basically grounded and can't move, which was a pretty cool thing. But yeah, so that's how that worked for me. It was just like I was very much going for a theme of just taking earth spells and spells that had like earth in the name because that's like the whole thing. So like, you know, I have subclass abilities like I have Tremor Sense at like I think I got Tremor Sense at level 6, and I have like a custom version of like Meld into Stone that lets you move. Normally when you cast Meld into Stone you can't move. So it's like, and it's kind of, we've seen it with some other things, like you can cast a special version of Meld into Stone once per long rest that like you can do as a bonus action. And you can move up to your movement speed, but it cuts the duration to like a minute as opposed to like 8 hours or whatever it is. So that's a cool thing. And normally it would suck because you can't see when you're inside stone, but you can if you have Tremor Sense. So it's like a cool synergy thing I built into the class. And I'm debating changing one of the abilities on it too. Yeah, Jose, we're gonna cover Ranger tomorrow, but yes, I don't love the Ranger. So we'll see. Let's see, like we're talking about like the Savant spells. Like I don't know what a Geomancy Savant equivalent would be, so you have to kind of just come up with something unique. And I gave them an ability that more or less gave them the feature that like the light domain cleric thing where you can like turn an attack that was at advantage into disadvantage. But I think I'm gonna switch it now, having thought about it. Not to make it like Arcane Ward, because I don't want to step on the toes of the Abjurer Wizard. But basically, instead of forcing a creature to make a save at like make an attack at disadvantage when they can still hit, I might change make it more like the Monk's Deflect Missiles ability or Deflect Attacks, where when somebody is hit, you can reduce the damage by an amount instead. And I think that's a cooler ability. I'm saying I'm going to do that instead. I like that better. So, yeah, I mean, realistically, that's what I'm probably going to end up doing is, like I said, taking like Lightning Bolt and calling it Fissure. And like now I can make a 120-foot line where I develop a crack in the ground and anybody in that line takes bludgeoning damage. And then see if I can convince him to basically make a version of Elemental Adept that does the same thing as Elemental Adept, but for bludgeoning damage. So that like if they have resistance to bludgeoning damage, they take full damage, you know, that kind of a thing. So that might be like a thing that I try to convince him to have happen, so that like if I'm going to have all these spells that are going to do bludgeoning damage, it would make sense to have a feat that lets me kind of overcome that. And he just gave me, because of my spell class, he just gave me resistance to bludgeoning damage as a class feature, which was just like a cool thing that he just was like, now you're going to have that. And I was like, all right, cool. I'll take it. So, yeah, I'm excited. We're actually going to be playing that game on this coming Sunday night because we had I was off and somebody else was out this past Thursday, so we couldn't play. Next Thursday is the 4th of July. So this coming Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern, I believe, will be over on his Twitch channel, and I'll be playing Vecna Eva Ruin. And I will be reprising my role as Theodore the Orange, my Geomancy Wizard, who wears a hat just like this, has a beard just like this, has a staff with an amber orb on top of it, just like this. So I'm really making a stretch on on my class here, but I'm enjoying it. He's big on being a wizard and studying arcane things. We recently encountered a Nothic, and I had him get elbow deep inside the Nothic, cutting it up to look at it and inspect the Nothic to see what happened. Because Nothic is a wizard who went a little too deep into the arcane study. So that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, that game. I made the Nothic eyeball as a prop because I'm nuts. Here, I'll show you guys. Let me go grab it. Right? I made the Nothic eyeball because I really just did it for the on-screen just for the bit, really, for having them be like, oh, and I had it under the table here, and I was like, and I'm just gonna try to pop the wizard out, and then I get the eyeball just to see the other players freak out at me pulling out this eyeball. So yeah, I just built this real quick because I thought it would be fun to have one, and then just be like, yeah, now my character has this Nothic eyeball. And it's cool and it looks good and people really think it's neat, and it took me a couple hours to make, not even, maybe an hour from start to finish. So, and kind of just amps up the wizard vibe. And I have a staff I'm working on because I found a stick that's really cool. So we're gonna try to affix this this is actual amber, by the way. We're gonna try to affix this to the top of the staff. So, that's just how I roll. Anyway, this was a lot of fun. Thank you all for coming and hanging out with me. I think we're probably going to bring this live stream to a close. And then tomorrow, be on the lookout for a post. Yeah, well, unfortunately, Tenacious Gamer, you're here right at the end. But tomorrow, around noon to 1 p.m., somewhere in that time frame, we will be diving into the Ranger in all of whatever the Ranger is, because it is certainly something. Oh yeah, dude. Are you kidding me? I love. By the way, if you're unaware, it's official stick reviews is an Instagram account. Definitely one of the best things as a guy. Not that you can't appreciate a good stick as whatever you identify as, but yeah, I think it's official stick reviews. Dude, it is so many cool sticks. Yeah, if you like Hunter's Mark, you're gonna be super jazzed for the Ranger video tomorrow. Anyway, save the rage. We'll use it tomorrow. So anyway, thank you all so much for coming and hanging out tonight. We had an absolute blast. And yeah, we will see what comes in the Ranger video tomorrow. Be ready. It's gonna be salty. I'll see you all tomorrow.